Hi guys. So today's video is going to be a book chat on the book Wintersong by S Jae-Jones. This isn't a formal book review because I really am just kind of sitting down to talk to you all about this book, but I want to be really transparent in saying I didn't actually finish it, but I want to get into why I didn't finish it, why I still think it's a book a lot of people would enjoy. To give a kind of general overview of the plot, this book is told in first person by our main character named Liesel or Elizabeth, and she is this young woman who is the eldest sibling in her family. She has so much responsibility to take care of her younger siblings and to help out her parents. When she was very, very young, she had these kind of fanciful musings of this individual called the Goblin King that her grandmother would always tell her about. And as she got older, that's exactly what she decided all of that was just fanciful musings. But eventually she realizes the Goblin King is indeed real, and he is very interested in gaining back the relationship that Liesel kind of put in the back of her mind. The Goblin King definitely takes advantage of mischief and games and morbid games and decides that he is going to get Liesel's attention by kidnapping her sister and forcing her to participate in these sort of trials to get her sister back. And that is why I've heard this book described as a labyrinth retelling. I'm not all that familiar with the labyrinth story, but a lot of people do describe it as a retelling of that. A huge element of this book would be the music and the influences music has on Liesel and her family. Her youngest brother, he is this violin prodigy, and the author clearly has an extensive knowledge of music. I am classically trained in music. I went to school for music, and it was done so beautifully. And because this is technically taking place kind of toward the end of the classical period of music, the author definitely did her research when it comes to how people would refer to music and how music would be learned in that time period. I felt like I was learning about music reading this book. I absolutely love the influences of music in it. And Josef, her younger brother, he is the violin prodigy, but Liesel is the one in the family who has a gift for composition. However, because she is a female, she was definitely kind of discouraged from her composition. Part of the Goblin King's interest in Liesel, though, is stemmed from her musical compositions and the music that she holds so dear to her when she was younger and they would play together. That was something that was really a thing that drew him to her. And so for him to see this part of her being shut away, it's kind of something he wants to bring back to life in her, but he does things in very interesting ways. I don't want to say too much more about the Goblin King and Liesel and her family and the dynamic between all of that, because for those of you that want to pick this book up, I don't want to give stuff away. I do want to talk about Liesel as a character though, and the way that it's kind of like a character portrait. I just think that the author, the way that she explores the character, the way she presents the character to the reader, I thought was actually done amazingly. It's something that I haven't seen a ton of, especially in first-person narration. I find that a lot of times when you first meet a character, you of course are going to be given hints of their past or hints of what make them the way they are, and you get that with her, but there's something about the way the author did it in this book that the character is very deeply flawed, and she is struggling with things that are so internal, and I don't know that she even recognizes it. So because it's first-person narration, you kind of start to catch glimpses of it as the story progresses. Something that Liesel struggles with immensely is this sense of being inadequate or not being good enough. So Liesel has so much difficulty recognizing her worth. And this is where, in this story, at initial view of certain situations that occur throughout the book, it can be, if you look at just the surface of what's occurring, it can seem like something very toxic, because Liesel definitely seeks validation from others. She doesn't necessarily find the self-love, if you will. It also can kind of sort of make you annoyed with Liesel when you're first introduced to her, or at least for me, when I was first introduced to her, I didn't feel like the amount of negative feelings Liesel held for her life really made sense, because I didn't think that her life was that bad. I know that sounds really awful, but we're so used to, in the fantasy genre, seeing people that just have the worst lives. Or even in real life, people have really, really difficult lives. And I didn't know that, I didn't really see Liesel's life as that bad. And she just seemed so down. And I didn't really understand why. And the more that we get into the book, the more you actually start to understand how Liesl has been treated, how she has come to develop this thought in her mind about herself and the feelings that she has towards her family members, and why she feels so protective of her siblings, and why she always feels like she has to kind of be this parent figure in her family, why she always has to take care of everything and everybody but never herself. And I didn't see that initially, because initially I was thinking, like, you don't really seem like you've sacrificed that much for everybody. But the more you get to know her, you really do start to see how things have led to the way she is now. It's just something that takes so much nuance to pull off on the author's end, and I think she does it, but it doesn't necessarily make for the most entertaining read. And then you combine that with the heavy classical music references, and it's so beautifully written, but not the most accessible. It's also very common in a lot of books, regardless of genre, for you to root for the characters to be in a romantic relationship, and you kind of, whoever the romantic interest is in the story, you're like, oh, I can't wait till they're together. And in this book, Liesl, everything is seen through her eyes, so there are times that she wants to be with someone, and you don't have, or at least I didn't necessarily have the feeling of wanting her to be with someone, because I kind of just kept thinking, you really need to work on yourself. You really too much are relying on other people loving you to feel good about yourself. And everybody wants to be loved, and everybody wants to have love in their life, regardless of whether it's romantic or not. But the way that she craves it's pretty unhealthy. And so it's hard, because I like wanting people to be happy and to be in relationships and everything, but I also don't want them to be in a relationship so that they feel whole and they don't feel like they can feel good about themselves unless they get this other person, or unless they get this other person's approval. The reason I didn't finish this book is not because I thought it was bad, but if you've watched my channel before and you've heard me talk about books, you know that I am not the biggest fan of romances in stories, and the romance in this story really does become a big deal. I would say I like romances as a side thing in books, not as one of the main things in books, and it's definitely a key factor of this story. But if you like romance in books, if you like fantastic character examination, if you like very realistic struggles that people go through internally, and if you like beautiful, beautiful writing, I would definitely say you should pick this up. If you read purely for entertainment, if you like a book that is fast-paced, makes you want to turn the page, I don't know that this book is going to be for you. As always, thank you so much for watching. Have a great rest of your day. Don't forget to check out the charity Save the Children. I have the link in the description bar down below. But anyway, I'll see you all later. Bye.